Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spinner Rack. I'm here with the boys. We got our special guest star, Professor CA. Say what's up, Professor CA.
What up?
We got Calvin Ellis, and we got PD himself. So today we're going to be talking about episode number 1 of the man himself, Loki, Thor's erstwhile brother, the man that we want to love, but we don't know if we're going to, in this multiverse of the MCU. So as you see, this is the beginning of the movie. I'm just going to give a brief synopsis. It starts off with Loki went back in 2012 when he's in Avengers Endgame, and he gets the Tesseract and escapes. Absolutely funny scene. And there we see him landing in some type of Mongolian desert, Gobi Desert, and gets captured by a group called the TVA, or the Time Variance Association, right?
Authority.
So they take him in, and agency, and so they take him in and basically want to try him for the crime. Time Variance Authority, sorry about that. And they want to take him in and try him because now he's he's outside the normal timeline. So basically it's him getting used to that. And what did we think about this whole episode? Because it really was a setup episode, laying the groundwork for what happened to the timeline, why they have him there, a lot of exposition, and what they want for him in the future. So gentlemen, so I'm just going to hit that straight to my boy Cal. Cal, give me a heads up. What was your thoughts about this particular episode?
Well, like you said, it's a good startup. They cut out a lot of the chaff where they get us to where Loki needs to be as opposed to where he was when he gets the Tesseract, which is that first Avengers movie. And you can see they're going to play around with a lot of stuff based on the little bit of tidbits we got here. But I'm still more of in a wait and see mood. You got to see a little bit more as to see what's going on. But it was a good start to the series.
What about you, Professor C? What was your first initial thoughts on this?
Therapy can work.
Therapy can work.
Well, it says it was a big old therapy session between him and Mobius, and I felt like he was actually using some therapeutical techniques like value exercises. So it's like, oh, what do you like? What do you want? And when you get that, well, what do you do now? And he's trying to get a sense of who he was. So it was literally like a therapy session. I thought it was a great start. Yeah, I thought it was one of the better starts of the Disney Plus kind of first starts. With WandaVision, you just had no context for anything. You didn't know what was going on. So you just kind of like, for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's like, oh, okay. You know, first episode. For this, it was like, I was all in, and it was dope. It was crazy. And I rewatched it like 3 or 4 times. So,
wow.
That's good. Yeah, I thought it was dope.
What's your initial thoughts, PD?
Well, I would go with the okay. That's the category of it being okay. Ultimately, it kind of, they obviously want Loki to be captured because he uses the Tesseract and, it's been in his grasp before, but he just sort of kind of like, oh, this fall out. We don't know how he got to that situation where he just falls out after using it. Or if there was some fun there, maybe there is some more fun that happened in between the Avengers movie. But we start where the screw up happened in the timeline. And they kind of hint about it when they get to the Gugu. They talk about it a little, but they kind of try to cover their tracks, saying that that hey, this is we're okay with the Avengers. We're not okay with you being this thing outside of the timeline, and which obviously you see they're trying to eradicate all that stuff. But obviously the Owen Wilson characters kind of has this plot in mind, which of course goes awry. So ultimately, it leads to my big issue is that, Marvel kind of uses stuff and it's like translating the stuff is kind of loosely because they take the TVA, which almost to some extent isn't like a police force. It's like to the Marvel 616, it's someone a group that's just was okay with wiping it out. They were like, we don't care about this timeline anymore. We've had it. We want this going. They can say in this one, there isn't that much timeline mess up outside of Thanos and then going to the Avengers jumping and having this blip that sort of happens in or Captain America going to having a relationship and that sort of stuff. But it's kind of picking and choosing the stuff that they want to keep and what they like kind of have their cake and eat it too. Say, well, this Loki thing is a problem, but this Captain America thing isn't, and we okay with the Avengers. When the TVA initially, they tried to take out, they were watching over Thor in the Thor comic book with the that Walter Simonson did, because Thor was trying to reverse time to stop the Zaniac from killing Jane Foster, and he comes in conflict, but Thor kind of shows that this can work out, and obviously they get through. Jane is still alive, but then later they're just out to take out the Fantastic Four. Like what's the name? The first, we don't even know whether their presence is felt in this huge bomb that's sent to the Baxter building that Reed barely gets out of. And Reed figures out right after that, something that's wrong with the timeline, and he goes out there to fix it, and he figures out what it is. But then the TVA is like, we don't want these guys. We got to get rid of the FF now. And they send them on this wild goose chase through timelines till when they get back, the TVA is like, you guys have had it. Because Walter Simon did this big storyline where the Doom and Reed are fighting, jumping through time. And the TVA is like, we're taking the Fantastic Four out and we're taking them to the TVA. And we get to see them in all this glory, drawn by Walter Simonson, all this cool stuff. And none of the stuff that we saw, but they're basically, to say all that to say, is almost an adversary to the heroes. And that bureaucracy is almost a joke Walter Simonson was doing to the Marvel officials, saying even his friends, Mark Grunwald, who was based off the main characters based off of, was saying that wouldn't let anything through, wouldn't let them do anything interesting. So that's the sad part, where they just take stuff and they just mold it and say, hey, we're kind of fixing the timeline. And of course, now in this story, it's very different because they have an adversary, and this adversary that we don't know. But it could be one character, it could be another. So obviously, everyone's going to sit around to see who that is. So that's as much as I'm going to get.
You're 100% right about that. And I think, and we'll touch base on that at the very end, about who we think the actual adversary could possibly be. But let's get straight to the meat of the issue. The Time Variance Authority, and who are they? And in terms of why do they claim that this Loki is a variant? I'm gonna pass this on to Professor CA. What's your thought on that whole thing?
Why he's a variant? He's a variant because he stepped off his time path. As soon as he took, in 2012, as soon as that Loki took the Tesseract and dipped out, he started a branch timeline, because that Loki was supposed to go to Asgard and have the events of Thor Dark World happen. So as soon as he stepped off that path, he became a variant like many other variants.
And Cal, what about what's the impact of a variant on a timeline? What happens there?
According to the TDA, nothing, because they go and police it, so it never happens.
They destroy it, right?
Well, I don't know about destroy, but they pretty much put the person back where they're supposed to be, and similar to what they did with the whole thing with the gems. So there's no real alternative timelines. One of the bigger things I took away from it, after all that argument about there being all these different streams of timelines and such, is this show pretty much said no. Once you go back and you put everything where it's supposed to be, the timeline goes the way it's supposed to. So there was all that argument for nothing.
Well, I mean, is it, or it seems I had the way I looked at it was that they were actually pruning any extra timelines, because the way they explained it.
So there's only one timeline.
Right. So the way they explained it is that the whole TVA, the timekeepers, came about, at least in this universe, is that they came about to make sure there was no longer another what do you call that?
That bit of exposition.
War. And so therefore,
that bit of exposition is, aside, there was all this argument as to all these timelines being created in the Avengers Endgame movie. When they told you in the movie, once we put the stuff back where it belongs, this is pretty much it. Nobody wanted to go with that. They still wanted to go and speculate. We get this show, and the show says, no, once you put this person or whatever it is back where it belongs, timeline goes the way it's supposed to. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be cool to go back to what Petey said. Petey brought up an interesting point. That I would love to go deeper on, the idea that when Walt Simonson created TVA, it was meta commentary on the industry itself. I think I don't know. I took it like it was the same thing for the show, in a sense that like this is a meta way to deal with different things. Like
that's the key issue. Yes, they're definitely saying, hey, you're sitting around here, we're just going to explain it away. You can sit around here, we'll just retcon it, or any sort of reference you want to use as far as how we do storytelling. And as you said, exposition that sort of thing to get through this hump, though, where people saying, hey, this was a big issue. And we're like, no, we'll just explain it. We'll have these guys explain it. And, most of the fans will be like, yeah, that's what they said. What they said there, that's it. That's it. We'll go with that one.
So that's their way of getting rid of the Jeff Loeb universe. You saw when they addressed Coulson, they talk about Coulson, but like they do not acknowledge that he came back to life. So that would mean that Coulson and the whole ABC series was a branch timeline.
Ooh.
Ow.
Ooh.
Wait a second. You're throwing me off here too. Explain how.
But is Coulson in that series? Is he a life model decoy? Is he?
No. They revived him through a series of surgeries and technology.
Wow.
And the alien blood from what you call those guys? The Chitauri.
Thank you for that. That would be really petty of our boy, Kevin Feige to do something like that. But it's not showing the connection to it, showing any scenes of that stuff. Damn it! It would hurt to be like, because it's only add fodder to the people going against Jeff Loeb, like he's Ike's puppet, because that's what people kind of try to look at him as. He's as bad as Ike was, because Ike usually gets all of the bad stuff that he did nothing. He just brought all the racist and sexist stuff, and anyone who we don't like, whoever, or Kevin Feige one needs to get rid of, because Jeff Loeb, I mean, ultimately I'm joking and saying this stuff, but Jeff Loeb has been in television a long time, right? He's shown he can run series. He ran series before the Marvel stuff. So, I mean, as an exec, it makes sense that Kevin Feige would kind of push the Marvel people out and say, I'm the guy. Don't talk to Marvel. Don't talk to those guys. Come to me. So it makes sense. It is business. It is how business goes. I'm just joking when I say, but a lot of fans are putting Loeb with Ike and Ike with Perimeter, and he's like saying he's the bad. They're both bad. They're both racist. He said some racist joke, and Jeff Loeb was in the same room. It's like, what does that mean? It don't mean that Jeff Loeb said or did anything. And many people have had to struggle with someone saying something. I mean, I think Reginald Hudlin talked about it before doing what's that movie? Boomerang, where the exec was like, hey, what are we gonna do? We're not gonna do a leading man with talking about Eddie Murphy, leading man with a big nose. We can't do that. And they were sitting in the room and they were like, and the person asked them, when he asked the question, what did you do? He's like, we wanted to make the movie. So we sat there, and then that guy was fired a couple weeks later, unrelated, and we made the movie. So it's one of those things where you're in the room, it doesn't mean, it's a hard thing, because it goes to that Dick Gregory saying, the lesser of two evils means you're evil. But sometimes in playing business, you have to sort of be in these rooms where some stuff is being said that you have to sit through, which is tough. So, I mean, saying that all to say is go back to what you were saying about Jeff Loeb and that sort of thing. And it's sad to hear that some of that stuff is gone. When they had some successful run, I was watching the last season of that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I was like, hey, this ain't that bad.
It's really good. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah. So let's get back to the Time Variance Authority. What do you guys think about the whole explanation, that whole with the lizards and stuff like that? What's your take on that? So I'll pass that back on to I said Cal, I guess.
Say more of the same. We got to watch more of the show.
You don't want to speculate?
Okay.
No, I do not want to.
So then we will push it on to Professor C. What's your thought about that whole thing? Professor?
I think it's Kang. I think the middle dude is Kang. And that hot judge is his future love interest, or maybe present love interest. I don't know. And the way she's kind of like set there and kind of framed with the middle Time Lord behind her, who looks like Kang, who looks like the actor, actually looks like John. Look, they put his face in a mold, and it's like, put it there. So yeah, that's what I think. That's where I think that's going.
Hey, I'm with you there. I was thinking the exact same thing. They're just setting the series just setting up a lot of clues and Easter eggs for what could possibly be happening in the future. So I think
but also just to kind of like temper my expectation, Marvel's notorious for making it seem like they're actually going to make a definitive impact and connection, and then pull it right under. This could all be Wizard of the Oz, where this is all kind of like magic, like not magic, but like there are tricks to how certain things are happening. Like a question that comes up for me is, why doesn't Loki's powers work there? Why doesn't the Tesseract work at the TVA?
That's one of the things that is definitely weird about it, because, you know, I guess playing in the rules of their thing, Loki can get free, break out of the cuffs, and then start using their equipment to his advantage, but he can't do any of his other stuff. And it kind of, one of the things I've kind of struggled with Marvel is, like, you take Thor outside of Asgard, he's susceptible to the light, the electricity shock things, all this other weird stuff that all of their, like, Loki's someone who can cut his head off and not have an issue with it. He can dismember himself, like, in any way, like arms broken, he can hurt, but it doesn't, he's hard to kill. You can bury him under who knows how many feet of ground, and he's just he's the ultimate trickster, always one step ahead at least. And this is like, oh, he can't do nothing. And it kind of, I guess, something that was held back from, I guess, Ragnarok, where you kind of see these guys, you know, having them limited to be just sort of powerful characters rather than just these kind of magical characters. Because Loki's should be, you know, not necessarily more powerful, but as far as what he can do, it's very interesting. So it's, yeah, it's one of the things when he was kind of, well, they're doing it for effect when he does this thing and he can't do it.
Yeah.
But they're saying that in the show that they were saying that his power doesn't work there because he has that cord, that thing around his neck that dampens his power and controls the time that he's in. And they're also saying that, you know, those, I remember reading something where they were saying that the reason they showed those Infinity Stones is that it only works in the universe that is in. They're different universes that have different Infinity Stones. Of course, I mean, that's probably something Marvel is writing away, but
funny. It's just funny to see those things that are in the big thing.
But it explains
they're like trinkets. This doesn't make any sense to it.
They're trinkets. They're trinkets. Remember, it's supposed to be. Those are started at the beginning of that particular universe, right? And so once that if it's in another universe, it's probably going to be for that particular universe or that particular multiverse that it affects. So this place that they're in is like some type of bubble dimension somewhere near. So that's why those things don't affect.
See, that's now, okay, so my theory is, now, PD thinks it's just like a wink and a nod, like, haha, we're moving on from that. You know, it's like, bah. But I do think there is intention, and I do agree with you. My theory is, and this is why and how it'll connect to Quantumania, is that they are in the quantum realm, which is why his powers or no powers can work in that dimension when you're shrunk to like subatomic level. So everything you saw there, that's all shrunk down there in the quantum realm, and that'll be revealed, connecting it to Kang.
And that's all part of the whole phase 4 thing. You have the multiverse of madness coming up, you know, where this is going to probably be impacting. You also have that Quantumania. What is the matter, Peter?
All my kryptonite, multiverse, Marvel, all of this my kryptonite.
You know, and if they do it, probably they'll be able to wrap it up by phase 5 or whatever.
No, you guys just pointed that there's going to be more of it. You just put out that it's separated because it connects to Quantumania. No, it connects to it connects to Quantumania. It connects to all the stuff. Means it's going to have more multiple timelines. Everything, seeing that Avengers scene another 3 or 4 million times. Well, we did get to see that. The other thing was, I will say, it was powerful them seeing Renee Russo, because it was kind of like she was kind of unceremoniously just like, oh, then we need something to do, stab, and they kind of built it up in Endgame, and then having Loki have his own time where he sees his father pass, and he also sees his mother, or both of them would be adopted, but it's just like having to face that, and that was a powerful scene. To have Loki have a scene like that, a scene what he's missed. But you know, Loki's always crafty, so it was something where you could easily, once Happy goes through that, not be like the next scene. Because I've been, talking to people, why don't they do that the next? Why isn't he crying the next scene? Like, no, he's Loki. They're supposed to have that emotion for that one moment, and it's a movie, a TV show. So you move on. Maybe he has another thing. Maybe he doesn't. But that is your moment for his anguish of what actually happens, and of the people that obviously his parents.
But is that enough to make him be like the original Loki ends up dying, who kind of changes his ways a bit?
I don't think he changes.
Is that enough? Or is this just him being a trick?
We don't want him to change his ways. I'm saying he can have that moment. The whole point is.
But
Sorry.
I mean, he starts off being a pretty bad character. He's definitely the bad guy. But by the time he dies at Thanos' hands, he's he's not that bad. He's more sympathetic. Yes, he's the brother who's a little estranged and does some crazy stuff, but he's still the brother of Thor. He's still willing to help his brother at the very end. What's your take on that, Professor? You think he
actually, actually, I would pass that to Cal. I think Cal has a pretty concise understanding of why all that had to get resolved in episode 1. Cal?
Because you don't have time. You don't have enough episodes.
So you're saying, or your kind of theory is that, not theory, but you're positing that they had to get him back to that in a different way quicker because they had a lot more. They want to go in a whole other direction.
Well, you want Loki, who appeared, who died in Infinity War. You don't want Loki, who was in the Avengers. So you got to do, well, I like the idea of therapy. You do a crash course where you give him all the therapeutics that he needs so you can get the character that you want to actually tell this story with. And then you'll still get evil Loki. He's going to be fighting him. He's going to be fighting him throughout the series.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah. And to Petey's point, like it's not that he becomes good at the end of the session. He's more revealed. The idea that he's insecure, the idea that he has to kind of make control, and the only strategy he's ever seen work is fear and intimidation, which is why he has to play a certain role to get people to fear him, which you get to see him do with that office worker, where he's kind of fun to watch. Now that you know who Loki is inside, he's like, I'm gonna gut you, but he's just playing that role. That's the role he's playing. If he has to, he will kill him, but if he doesn't, he won't. So he's just trying to intimidate him. So I think it's not that Loki is going to be less evil, just more like he's going to try something new.
I mean, did you think when the most effective part of that whole, I guess, viewing or showing of his past, when Mother died or when Thanos killed him? It seemed to me when Thanos killed him, that really he's like, I guess everything I was doing was just wrong. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
Pete? What do you think, Professor CA?
For me, I think that is that tied back in the title of Glorious Purpose, because he thought his destiny was going to be larger than that. So the fact that he just ended up choked out was like, I was totally wrong. Like, what what he thought was his purpose wasn't his purpose, and that was the end of his story. So what now?
What's your take on that, Petey?
Sorry, ask me the question again. I had a mishap. The cat was making noise as though someone was breaking in. So it's just a cat jumping around making a ton of noise. Ask me the question again, please.
Or are you just torturing the poor cat, huh?
No, that's definitely not. I mean, you saw me sitting here, so I can't torture the cat and run to see who's breaking in. So what's the
or if it's even a cat?
What is the question, sir?
I can't stop. You can't. Gotta.
It could be that Samuel Jackson situation, Captain Marvel situation. Real cat.
Oh, there it go. There it is. There it is. I knew it.
Who was?
Waiting for this day. I'm gonna crack up national TV.
He's looking the wrong way.
Ask me a question.
Professor CA, can you explain? Oh, well, he's gone then.
So
I guess he just wants to show prone.
I'm here. Ask me the question. I'm just going to close my picture for a second.
Do you think that what was the most I guess I lost him again. So
I'm here. I said ask the question. I was just turning my screen off for a second.
No, he's cracking up. He can't get it together.
Yo, I'm just sorry.
Come on, man.
Can you just
come on? We have a show to do.
The question was, what was the most
Don't help him.
thing that? Of course, I'm going to help him.
Don't help him.
You've been helping the whole show. You've been leading us the whole show. Keep going. We need a leader. Keep it going. Don't you break up.
Oh, my bad. All right, look. The question is, you guys are just so hilarious. The question is, what thing did he view that had the most impact in kind of shifting his arc? Was it the sight of his mother dying, or was it the sight of Thanos killing him?
It was all of it.
I think you can say it's all of it. Ultimately, because we keep forgetting Thor had his inspirational moments in there, and having a lot of that Thor dialogue wasn't, I mean, I brought up his mother, but and seeing Odin at some point in there, but him, Thor talking to him and them having this moment and saying brother, you could sort of feel the energy of that. But then it is what Cal is saying. It is pretty much seeing all of that in totality having effect on him in this one moment where we didn't really get to see, we get to see Loki react to Thor telling him this stuff, and then Loki kind of messing up, but then getting with the program, because like a cause and effect. Now he's just watching it, like you described, being like a therapy session, and him having to have this realization, which usually doesn't happen in one sort of therapy session, but it's like seeing it all at once. You're like, Lord, all of this has happened to me in one thing, and I wound up fighting with the side of the, you know, on the good guys, and, you know, have this heroic passing. So it's like one of those things where he gets to see everything, not just what everyone else did and everyone else, you know, the sacrifices they did, but his own. So
yep, It's a Wonderful Life. Basically, it was like It's a Wonderful Life. He gets a view of a future in which all the things that were kind of his insecurities actually play out in a good way. Like, he made peace with Odin. Odin called him, acknowledged him as, you're my son. You're not just my side kind of situation. You're my son. Thor actually embraces him as a brother. He actually sees a vision of in a world where they actually fight together side by side. Yeah. And he actually can see that he actually has potential to do like good things. And his mom.
Well,
and he realized that's his mom. Huh?
I agree with all you guys. I think that's a good point. But I think at the very end, you see that your whole life's purpose comes to an end when Thanos just cracks your neck, you know. But you're right. It's cumulative. Everything, it comes back together. I was thinking though that probably this Loki would not totally change. You know, he'll still be the old Avenger.
Yeah,
but you know,
I'm more in that camp. Yeah, I'm more in that camp that he's not. I mean, maybe to some extent that they have either evil Loki or someone else, but we can't speculate because Marvel screws that up for us all the time anyway. They won't let us do it. You no good. It's just that we think, oh, it's this character, it's that character. Though I will say, because of who's that guy, Kurt Busiek, bringing in the Time Lords, I get them trying to tag Kang to the TVA, but the Time Lords, those were they were a brief blip in the Thor series. And Kurt, what have you got that smirk on your face for? Mars, what do you got that smirk on your face for? You're sitting there like this. What you got that smirk?
Hey, I agree with you. The whole Thor thing. I agree when they started working, but they weren't even called the Time Variance, the Time Lords back then. Weren't like some type of time twisters or time.
I don't. There was a Thor issue that was done in the 70s, and there were these three characters. One of them not being Kang. So there's these three characters, and I didn't hear about them again until Kurt Busiek made those guys the guys who kind of control Immortus, where Immortus was just a guy doing his own thing. So it's like kind of weird that they Kurt Busiek kind of made these guys the top guys as far as time, and Kang kind of the guy who's kind of outside of that, just causing a mess, even though we know there's a connection between Immortus and Kang and that stuff. So it's kind of weird that they just decided to give you these three sort of guys. I guess it's easier to make these, you know, sort of like three characters that they can actualize in the show. To be like, oh, they might pop up, they might not. They're just good for statues, that sort of thing. But it's real surprising that they're sort of prominently figured in this. In the TVA, I think they were involved in 3 storylines, 2 by Walter Simonson and 1 by one was the annual, that they had this annual going on, which I don't remember. I didn't read, but I think they had the 3 big storylines for the TVA. So, but it's interesting to see these guys in there. They couldn't capture the sort of the some of the stuff that Walter Simonson did, but they are doing some things that gives you some cool sort of locale. So, you know, a reserve judgment on that.
But you know, it's also interesting that you have this whole thing with the there's this whole bureaucracy that you guys brought up earlier, and the very fact that it's like moving forward and they're destroying timelines or variant timelines, and the TVA, none of them seem to. And Loki asked them, "Have any of you guys talked to the Time Lords?" Basically, You know, we keep calling them Time Lord. You know, timekeepers. Time Lords is
Timekeepers.
Doctor Who. So stop it. That was you, PD. You put us on a Time Lord. You know, we got to blow up that variant.
Those guys, the Masters of Time, those are 3 guys or someone else?
Timekeepers, not the Time Lords.
Oh, that was me. I started that. My bad.
You know, so, but I'm saying the timekeepers.
I need you to apologize.
I apologize. I'm apologizing. but the timekeepers, no one's talked to them. And Loki makes that point that you guys are doing all this stuff on your own. You know, how do you interpret when he's talking to I forgot her name, Gugu.
Gugu.
Yeah,
Gugu. Gugu.
Where he's like, yeah, who's giving you the story? Where do you get this stuff from? And none of them actually met the timeline. You're like, huh? All this stuff is just going on by itself. Who's really behind this? Who's really making these calls? And
why do we care?
You know what that means? We'll have another Mandarin situation.
It's the first episode. We don't care.
A lot of people do care.
Dude, if the whole bureaucracy of a whole system where they're destroying.
We don't care about this stuff. We care about Loki. We don't care about this other stuff going on in peripheral and all this nerding out. We care about Loki. That's our focus. What are we supposed to be learning about him and so on and so forth. All this diving into the rabbit hole weeds of what's the TVA and who are the Time Lord and is that Kang? No, we don't know any of that stuff. You gotta wait.
We
do care.
This is exactly what people want to understand.
And we hope a lot of other people care too.
Yeah.
No, what people cared when it was Shang-Chi.
These are what the articles.
And we didn't want to see that guy as the lead because he wasn't masculine.
Oh, that's not the case.
People came out.
There we go.
We're not going down that rabbit hole.
That's a rabbit hole right there.
Just nerding out. Nobody cares yet.
The whole thing is nerding out.
That's the whole purpose.
The whole purpose is talking about this stuff.
I say the nay.
I say the nay.
Whatever.
Okay, we're gonna go off the rails.
Putting all this energy into like, look at that.
So okay, so we go back to.
We haven't even got into the picture.
You know who's coming back? Mephisto's coming back because we saw that picture of the devil, right? That stained glass picture of the devil. So since we saw a stained glass picture of a devil inside of the church, and Mephisto was representative of that devil, we should be looking forward to him. No, we got played on that before.
We know that. We know that. We didn't fall for that.
Let's wait.
All right, this is the thing that you're missing, right? This is the thing that you're missing. You can say that this is, was it navel gazing or something like that, but at the same time, when we decided to do an episode on the so-called white vision and was sitting there with no numbers, when it actually hit, it was like boom. Or some of the stuff that was wrong, that some of that stuff hit. We
knew that was coming though. Huh? Everybody knew white vision was coming. We knew that was coming.
I'm saying
everybody didn't know that.
Digress.
I'm saying that talking about this possibility.
If I'm telling you to go out and buy the comic book because it's gonna be $100 comic book, I knew that was coming well before the show. We knew it was coming.
Gentlemen, we are digressing. Let's roll it back to Loki. Yes, we're going to talk about many different things, Loki. If you're interested, you can jump in, Cal, or not. Okay, but let's just wrap it. Let's try to get it in. So the reason they say at the very end, Mobius. So Mobius, the character who is ageless, who's representing the TVA and stuff like that. And he's, like you said before, he's like kind of like a psychiatrist. He's trying to find out who Loki truly is and what he is all about. But what's pretty interesting at the very end is that we find out that it seems he's recruiting him to do what? To hunt other Lokis, you know, which seems to be the premise of the whole, well, one of the premises of the show. What is your take on that? That's really what they really want him to do, to hunt other Lokis. You think this is something?
Hunt the main Loki, right? Is multiple?
Is there a main Loki? I think there are multiple.
No, he just said one. He only said one.
Now we're really down the multiverse.
He only said one. It's too much detail.
Well, okay, you know what? You're right.
He did say one, but it seems as though
he did say one, but how many? Yeah, he did say one. He did say one.
Right. Yeah. The only reason I'm saying this is because it looks as though there may be others that he may encounter when you see some of the commercials. I can't imagine that he's the same guy in every single one, but it's possible.
Kid Loki is him. Female Loki is him. They're all the same dude.
I could touch on that.
Wait,
No, we're going.
Go touch it. Squeeze it.
No, I was just gonna say Loki's gender fluid.
Loki's gender fluid?
It's like in the what you call it, in that file, in the chart, in the file, if you look, it says sex and it says gender fluid.
Right.
Because it's a nod to the fact that he's a shapeshifter.
Was he accomplice Cal ever gender fluid?
What?
Oh God, why would you ask him that? Let him go.
I didn't hear the question.
All right, we're moving on.
What was the question?
Moving on.
In the comics,
No, the question wasn't moving on. What was the question?
Was gender ever a thing, a change in gender ever a thing for Loki?
Yeah.
The comics.
Yeah.
Here we go. We got it. We're good.
Cool. It's confirmed. Loki's gender fluid. Great. Moving on.
No, hold on. Wait a second.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. You have some issues. You have two comics where Loki is presented as a woman. But he did one of those just to get it Thor, where he took over Sif's body. It was a whole big storyline with Straczynski, where all of the Asgardians came back, but they came back in almost different forms, a la Thor when he first came back as Don Blake. So they all had to be found and they had to be awoken from these human forms into their godlike forms. Loki came back, but he came back in Sif's body, but that was all just this ploy to really get it Thor at the end of the day. And then there was Thor Annual 18? He was seen as a woman again. But like Petey said, Loki's a shapeshifter. He can take any form that he wants. Even if you went to the mythological Loki from the prose Edda and the poetic Edda, he can change his form at will. Lastly, he's a god. You know, that whole masculine feminine thing doesn't really matter to them. Zeus could take on the form of anything he wanted. You know, he was still Zeus, so it doesn't really matter. That's more of a human concept than something for a god.
Oh.
Well, sex is still the same. It's just that he's just changing his appearance.
No, he already answered the question. You didn't need to button it. It was a good one. I thought I was going to go to rant. I was totally wrong. And then you had to go ruin it and throw something on his tag, something on his thing. You had to go mess it up.
Now it's time to rant.
Oh no!
Clearly. So listen, to wrap this up, hey, any points you want to make on this before we move on? Petey, clearly you have some things you want to say, so please get it off your chest.
I'm not sure which one of it is, but it's confirmed you guys were the timekeepers. I'm sorry saying that Time Lord and threw you down the pike with the show. What this is based off of, Doctor Who. So.
No, it's not based off of Doctor Who.
You said it.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm just saying.
I didn't say it.
We're not even going to go there.
I said it. You said it.
Oh no, I didn't.
This is based off of Doctor Who.
No, it's not.
Some Silver Age stories from DC.
The original American concept. Period. All right, so stop it. If you want to see Doctor Who, go back.
Doctor Who stole the whole setup from some Silver Age DC stories. This isn't. They all steal from each other. This whole time thing, we got to police it and so on and so forth. Those are DC stories. What the whole imaginary? This is an imaginary story. They stole that from them. And then Doctor Who just came over and said, we're going to make it more adult and more intelligent for you people. And then everybody looked like, oh, this is great. Never done before. Wrong. Done before. This is Jean-Claude Van Damme running around in Time Cop. Where do you think he got that idea from? The same damn thing.
Yeah, they do borrow and take from each other and do like homages or whatever. Just fun fact, the head writer is somebody who wrote on Rick and Morty. So this is some Citadel of the Lokis type ish that we're about to get into. So it's definitely going to have that kind of sensibility to it moving forward. I'm still skeptical. I feel like this might be a Wizard of the Oz kind of switch up about to happen, because if this is true and the Time Variance Authority does exist, it's going to have big implications if it's actually real. Because basically saying that there is no free will in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, BS.
Yep, I'm with you on that.
He dropped the mic.
I did drop the mic.
He dropped the mic.
Very good point. Very good point.
There's got to be free will. If there wasn't any free will, there wouldn't be any variance.
Right. Agreed. So yeah. So either is it going to be a really big deal if the Time Variance Authority is going to be a thing that's going to stay around as a concept.
Why not? It's the story. So far, the storyline is the same thing we got in Time Cop.
I don't want to see no more multiverse and timeline. And only thing I want to see is freaking Council of Cross-Time Kangs, and that's it. There's nothing else.
So hold on a second.
There's going to be multiverse.
Multiverse.
You know,
take it away.
Hold on. So
it was in the video. It was in the animated video. It's going to be madness.
Hold on a second. So I'm saying, do you guys not see? I think this is such a easy thing. I thought everybody should have seen this. So if we're talking about we're talking about this Time Variance Authority.
The multiverse.
The multiverse. We have Kang involved in this, right?
Yep.
If Kang is there, who is he normally fighting?
The Avengers.
And Fantastic Four. Do you think this is
where Kang?
More so the Avengers.
Kang is an Avengers villain.
Okay, so more so, but I'm saying I think that this is an opening for the Fantastic Four.
Hell no.
No, we can't go that far. We were supposed to get the Fantastic Four in WandaVision. We didn't get it.
That's where I agree with Cal. Yeah,
is Doctor Doom, the Fantastic Four, Galactus, the Fantastic Four, throw them in the negative zone. You can't force fit an Avengers villain on the Fantastic Four. You don't have to. They have great villains of their own.
All those great ones have been stolen by Marvel too. So I mean, come on, guys.
The reason I'm saying this is because this would help to explain if this whole multiverse has been pruning going on, and now you have someone goes back and say, hey, you shouldn't have been pruning it. And now we have Fantastic Four was always here together. The X-Men was always here. And this kind of explains the difference.
They're not going to do that.
Prune the universe so you can add stuff to it. We pruned
they're not going to
added the Fantastic Four.
They're not going to do it.
Things. This is exactly what Loki said. Who gave you guys the authority to decide what's the proper timeline? Remember the whole timeline?
They're not going to do it. They're not doing it. If they wanted to do that, they had the perfect opening to do that 2 films ago. They're not doing it.
We don't know. But what I'm just saying, we had the time. The whole reason the TVA came around, it was to stop the multiverse.
So we can keep speculating on it.
That's what I'm trying to say. So
we're not doing a Savage Dragon multiverse where we get the FF from a different timeline and they get stuck in the present timeline. We're not doing that.
Like this, it's already been kind of shown and proven. This will be the overlap where I agree with Cal a little bit. I think that's I think it's a fair question, but I think that is a far leap, and we've never gotten any payoff for that far speculating. We've always been slapped in the face whenever we think that something's going to happen within Disney Plus that's going to have that much of an impact. So I will say that, like, I'm keeping my guard up. I don't know. If they're going to use that to bring the Fantastic Four, and that might be an overreach slightly, but one that makes sense though.
It makes no sense for them to do any of that because all it does is undermine Fantastic Four, number one. Number two, they don't care about all this geeking out stuff. They've got their own plans.
Yeah,
they've had these plans 2 years before we even saw these guys mess around with Infinity Stones and Endgame. They know they've already got this stuff mapped out. This right over here shows all of this. These are just hors d'oeuvres. These are nice little snacks, and the meal are the movies. They're not messing around with the money. They're not going to come over here and, we're going to drop these big bombs. No, these are just snacks. Enjoy the snacks, okay? That's it. That's it. And we're getting one snack a week to tide us over until we get a nice, big meal in terms of the film. That's it. Right. Less spec, more enjoyment, and everybody's happy.
You never ordered all appetizers for dinner?
That's called the poo-poo platter anyway. No.
All right. No, I agree with that. I don't agree. I agree with most of the initial part of they have a plan.
Thank you.
I don't agree with the fact that they've had it all figured out because they don't.
I agree. Yep.
You say they had it all sorted out. I said
you switched it up now, bro.
I'll accept it though.
Because they definitely switched things up, made spot changes.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
WandaVision. Doctor Strange was supposed to be in that.
By the time we seen it, the Thanos and that whole premise for Thanos when we saw him in the Avengers is definitely not. By the time we get to Infinity War, that's a totally different thing. Even when they saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy, it was like there's no real cohesion between those those utterances of what we see with Thanos and then what we see in Infinity War. However, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole and say, those sequences of Thanos that we saw, those are variants. The time guys came in here and corrected everything. So that That's just too much nonsense at the end of the day. But they are mapping this stuff out. They'll make tweaks and whatever adjustments they want. But the stuff that we're talking about,
I think there's definitely connections and setup for. I think there was an obvious setup in the video for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So I think that is definitely being shown in the Disney Plus. Like they're setting it up.
Yeah, especially since we know the title of the movie.
Right, and that's why it was very obvious that was like. I think Loki more than anything else, especially if it is a vehicle to make spot changes to actually get us to the Marvel. It is all connected. I think there will be some fun and some room to speculate. Did anybody else definitely do that? The other two Disney Plus shows, to definitely to lesser extents, but I think it's all adding up to something. And I think if you've watched the Disney Plus movies, there's still going to be connections for those people who actually took the time to watch all the Disney Plus shows, that you're going to get a little extra something out of the movies.
Right, and you got to remember too, Cal, that they even said that they were going to do the Doctor Strange stuff for WandaVision, but because of the pandemic, they weren't able to do it. Of getting people moved around a lot. So that explains why you didn't see the actual connection there, and how that ends up leading into the Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange. I think here I think the showrunner has definitely said that they're going to see some crumbs for this involving the Marvel movies. So I mean, that's what they're saying. So of course, the question is Marvel. How big of a crumb are we talking about?
That was it.
Exactly. How big of a crumb are we talking about? Is it going to be a significant crumb or not? I mean, in the picture of the possible picture of Mephisto shows up. I mean, that's a small crumb, and you're already like, yeah, it's not a real thing.
He's smart to not go to it, because they're asking.
Again, I'm going to Professor C. He brought up the point about the life model decoys from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how they say, hey, are you a human with a soul, not a robot? They're incorporating stuff that you saw in previous shows and stuff, and making certain things canon and not other things canon, at least in the Feige verse, that is, of Marvel. But
Feige is the timekeeper.
He is, and he's pruning and adding and taking things out of the way. Exactly. Good point. So listen, guys, let's wrap this up. Is there anything else you guys want to add? Cal, that's a yes or no?
Don't go down the hole.
Everybody likes going, well, I'll leave that one alone. Edie. Professor C.A.
Every time you tell us to go along and get along, then you go off the deep end. Off the deep end.
I go off the deep end. Hey, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm being good. My New Year's resolution is strong here, baby. I
just want to go back to what you said. Everybody loves the.
So
everybody loves
wrap up. We are all
everybody loves the.
Right. We're all in agreement. Loki was off the chain. We loved it. We think we're gonna definitely continue seeing it, and we're seeing potential futures of what Marvel's going to do coming forward, especially the Fantastic Four, how this will help to explain stuff, and we're all in agreement on this. Spinnerack
out.
Out. Booyah.